Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where today Kalyan Kumar, or KK to his friends, from HCL Technologies is going to be joining me on the podcast as we discuss the revolution that's set to unfold over the next decade in technology. And by that, I mean things like the cloud, quantum computing, green tech initiatives, the metaverse, and so much more. And he's come back from the World Economic Forum full of ideas, so I've invited him to join me on the podcast and give me the lowdown on those key tech takeaways from this year's delayed event in Davos. And in particular, I want to talk about things like cloud infrastructure, will it make or break quantum, and how the tech sector will drive towards carbon neutrality. But I don't want to reveal any spoilers this early on, so buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to the UK, where today's guest is waiting to share his story and his insights. So a massive warm welcome back to the show. But for anyone that missed our first conversation, can you just remind the listeners with a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Great to have a chat with all of you and great to meet you, Neil. And I would say it's the first time we're talking in the new year. So wishing all of you a very happy new year, 2023. And I hope it's a very productive and a social and a more engaging new year than the past few years. I'm Kalyan Kumar, KK, Global CTO and Head of Ecosystems at HCL Technologies. I have a secondary role. I'm also the Chief Product Officer for HCL Software. But I think in today's context, we're going to spend most of our time talking about HCL Tech and the tech trends and all of those aspects.
Awesome. And I think we last spoke just over 2 years ago about AI and the HCL Tech journey to a $10 billion revenue. And for anyone listening that missed that conversation, can you just tell the listeners a little about the work you do and some of those big global partners you work with too?
Yeah, sure. So HCL Tech is a global technology solution services firm in India, but purely global, operating in 60 plus countries, 220,000 people, growing healthily at sizable double-digit growth at that volume. We primarily are into two major businesses in the services side, which is IT and business services and engineering services. And then we have a software products business, which is a separate division called HCL Software. On the services side are primarily the three big services which we focus on are digital business services, which is all about helping companies build value stream and re-architect the way they deliver business value to their customers. Digital engineering, helping customers embed digital technologies to build products across connected products across VLSI, embedded systems, industrial, mechanical, across various industry verticals, cutting across platform data engineering, cloud engineering, infusing a lot of intelligence into connected devices, and digital foundation, which is where we help customers build resilient hybrid infrastructure, help them manage their workplace and employee experience better, help them build a very strong, resilient cyber, and also help deploy and modernize their enterprise and the telco network by leveraging all the good things happening around 5G and Wi-Fi 6, optical networks, and so on. So,
Wow, and there is so much going on at the moment, even though we've just begun 2023. And before you came back on the podcast, I was doing a little research on you, and I was reading that you've come back full of ideas from the World Economic Forum. Can you give the lowdown on some of the key technology takeaways from this year's event in Davos? Again, there were so many big tech stories coming out of that, wasn't there?
Yeah, every time I keep going to Davos, this is my 8th year there, I keep realizing that the tech is eating the world. And I think it looks like it's not left Davos also. World Economic Forum looks like it's becoming a world economic tech forum because the amount of tech companies which are in there, both in the Congress Center and on the promenade is amazing. I think the key, the start of the first day of the conference, there was a little bit of uncertainty as usual, which the whole thing around, hey, what's going to happen? But on the Tuesday onwards, since the German Chancellor's address, I think a lot of things started to change, a lot of positive outlook. The center of this whole conversation has been sustainability, because I think in WEF that's becoming a very, very, very important theme in terms of why it's happening. While the world is looming with this whole concern of a little bit of uncertainty, one unique thing which we saw was the India story, which was just visible in Davos, correct? You can just see that there was an India house, which is where you had the India, this thing, and that was one of the most busiest house, not just because of what's happening around the business and the content, but just also around just the social and the food and a lot of other things which was being announced. India house was the most like the most busiest place after the Congress Center. But then there are each states in India. Some of the states are bigger than some of the countries and mini continents of the world, like Tamil Nadu and UP and a lot of those states, Maharashtra, they were putting their own pavilions, right? The states in India, they're putting in their own pavilion. So you can just realize and say, and they're trying to attract various businesses to come and start. There's a big whole theme around Make in India, correct? That is this whole about manufacturing, this diversification of manufacturing, supply chain. So there's a big push around Make in India and how do you make India also beyond just software and services, also a manufacturing hub. So that's this thing. From an HCL standpoint, we were present in Promenade 66, one of the most eye-catching locations in Davos, and we were hosting a lot of panel conversations. We had quite a lot of main stage theater sessions. Our CEO and managing director, CVK, was in a core web panel discussion that's talking about how AI is becoming a part of digital services and then how it's going to really become, it's not AI versus humans, it's AI assisting humans in how do we want to deliver an outcome. We are quite active in terms of green sustainability, the whole net zero commitment, which we've been driving. And also we were quite actively engaged in some of the Aquapreneur program, which we've been running, which has really become a very big center stage in terms of what's happening in WEF around funding innovation for freshwater conservation. That's been the case. So I think that's in summary, which is the whole piece. Obviously, this time we didn't see much of crypto companies compared to last year. Last year, the whole promenade was covered by crypto, and now looks like there's been a little bit quietening around crypto. I don't think it's going to be quiet for a long period of time. It's going to come back and start creating its own hoopla around. But that was the net summary on Davos.
Wow, man, so much going on there too. And I was also reading before you came on that cloud infrastructure will make or break quantum. And by 2030, we won't be talking about what cloud services to use, but how cloud can deliver on business priorities so they can be ready for the quantum revolution, especially with predictions that quantum market could reach $1 trillion by 2035. Phenomenal. But can you bring this to life? Can you expand on why organizations must start thinking about leveling up their cloud infrastructure to get ready for and take advantage of this next generation of computing? Because it all sounds very exciting, but I'm wondering what you're seeing here.
Just the way I really look at this is cloud is utility, which means that if you're thinking about water, electricity, and core infrastructure benefits, if you are thinking about a digital business or a digital country or a digital economy, cloud is the building block. Now, how cloud? It could be public cloud, hybrid, private, edge, telco edge, hyperscaler edge, sovereign clouds. Those are deployment models. But cloud as the fundamentals, I really look at two things, cloud and connectivity, correct, which is 5G and beyond, correct? These two are two important things. One is about how do you process large-scale data and information. And the second is how do you connect, correct? These are the two important pieces which are in there. So I think companies should start to look at cloud or use cloud as a way to build their business models, correct? So that's going to be one. All new services, capabilities, companies which are building new product services, they're all born in the cloud, correct? You are a company who are born in the cloud or you're doing something which is connected to the cloud. Now, in terms of quantum, I think, the way I'm a big believer, I'm an active member in the World Economic Forum subcommittee on quantum computing or the future of computing. I've been meeting some very, very interesting people. And I think the quantum, the rate at which this technology can open new possibilities, it's still maybe a 2030 and beyond play, but there's a lot of proof point. You now have systems available where people could start building stuff on top of that. It's still very noisy. It's still very needs a significant error correction and things around that. But it's really started to move the needle. I think there's a lot of interesting innovation happening around quantum cryptography, correct? It's about how do you do random number generation and use quantum algorithms to be able to build. So it's the first time I'm seeing when a new technology is being brought in, there's a lot of focus around how do you build security around the new technology or making it more secure, correct? I think that's going to be an important play. But that said, there's still a long tail. Cloud migration in enterprises. See, if you're a digital native, cloud native, yeah, you're born in the cloud. But a lot of the enterprises still, they're like less than 20% of their total workloads are cloud ready. So hence they have to either modernize their applications, modernize their data, or just consume newer applications and newer stack, which comes in as part of this whole piece. So that's going to be important from a cloud standpoint. Would end up consuming multiple cloud capabilities across different providers, and it's going to continue to happen. Multi-cloud will be the way forward. I think there'll always be a single one large linear cloud, and there'll be a secondary cloud. Different companies would follow different strategies depending upon how you are seeing cloud. And if you start adding SaaS, which is built on top of cloud, then whole diversification of this application landscape is also going to be significantly in there.
100% with you there. And there is also a lot of talk in the tech sector about sustainability. You heard it at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and it's just everywhere at the moment. Not just about businesses being expected to do the right thing, but also businesses looking for their support partners to be doing the right thing as well and being more sustainable. But the big question is, everyone knows what they need to do, but what key steps do businesses need to take to be able to drive it? And because I think that's the bit that's often daunting and overwhelming, knowing where to start, isn't it?
Yeah, see, sustainability, I'll tell you how in my 2 cents on the way I look at sustainability, correct? I think the first thing is awareness and everyone acknowledging, correct? And making sure that, hey, this is something we have to address, correct?
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, it's not. And this is one topic where there's only one way forward, not back. If anything which you do, if you don't do the right thing, you are not leaving, you're impacting the planet effectively in a big way. And you're not going to leave. You always start to think sustainability for your future generations, correct? It's not about what you are going to see, it's what they're going to see. The second aspect is I think, just like you have taxes and you have just like the way you have corporation tax and then you have corporate social responsibility, I think sustainability has to get big. I think the real sustainability thing will happen is some companies will do this because obviously they have to do this. Some companies believe in this, and like something like HCL Tech, we are top down. It's from the board down. We believe we have to do this. But I think if you want to make this mass adoption, I think the most important thing is we need to start thinking of how sustainability become baked in accounting standards. Could you account for sustainability? Companies have to do things which will help them make it accountable. And accountable means that it has to be in the accounting standard. Somehow it has to come in saying that. And I think our chief sustainability officer, Santosh, he keeps telling this story that you do cap and you do tax. So he has this idea which he's published a paper in Harvard. I think he talks about how do you cap your emissions based on the industry. And what you have to maintain a certain level of capping, but then you also have this whole concept of creating some tax, saying that, okay, if you cap based on the industry you're in, what you're doing, you have to have some tax. That will force people to start relooking at this, and it becomes a core business agenda, line of business managers, product managers. They will start to take accountable ownership because it's going to hit into their line. So I think it's a very interesting theory, but it's just going to take a lot of time before people talk about it. That's the way I really look at sustainability. I think one has to start to really bake this into the core business value chain, or else it's going to be very hard to see scale adoption.
Yeah, and another big topic right now is artificial intelligence. What's fascinated me is if we look back, 6 months ago, anybody outside of the tech industry had very little understanding of AI or its capabilities. Many just dismissed it as a buzzword. Others just didn't know what it meant. Even in the tech industry, there's multiple definitions of what AI is. But then almost overnight, ChatGPT dropped and everyone's they now understand what problems it can solve and how AI is so valuable. I'm curious, has it surprised you how ChatGPT has brought AI into the mainstream so quickly? And also, are there any other tech trends that particularly excite you this year?
I might sound a bit different on this. AI is so pervasive that I think maybe ChatGPT is a very nice marketing gimmick, and obviously OpenAI has a larger good, correct? I think Dolly has a far bigger impact of what it can do than what ChatGPT is great. I think what they've done is they've put it out in the public. It's basically a conversational assistant. Now, you look at Siri, you look at Google Assistant, you look at Alexa. We've been surrounded by interactive conversational AI systems for a while, and they've matured over a period of time, correct? Yeah. If you look at what ChatGPT does is you take a lot of document interface. The only thing it's other than giving you search responses back, it gives you a conversational human-like interaction, correct? The data you give it starts to this thing with a Google search bar. Actually, That's the same thing. You could basically ask a question. The only thing is that it's not iterative, recursive. And what makes Google, Google could pretty much easily build something like this. Interestingly, funny enough, the original technology of generative progressive transformer, GPT, actually is a Google invention. Google actually invented the transformer model. Actually, it was a Google's project, which became an open source project on which a lot of these pieces were being built. So I think ChatGPT has really woken up a lot of people in terms of the art of possible, I think, in terms of what it can be done. We've been surrounded by conversational AI. And obviously, suddenly, every time something like this come up, we've been having this even in Davos 5 years back, this whole fourth industrial revolution. Oh, it's going to take away people's jobs. I think people need to know how to start working with AI. Yeah. I think the most important, when you go back to the way people learn, and I think it's all got to do with the learning framework of lifelong learning, continuous learning, what skills and capabilities are you teaching students and also professionals in their life in terms of continuously learn, unlearn, and relearn, and go through that lifelong learning mindset. You will get new tools. So hence, can you use ChatGPT or equivalent of something like that in a better way for you to start to do your job better? Yeah. Could you bake it into your process of how you could do things efficiently? And that's how one needs to start to look at products like ChatGPT or Dolly or all those pieces, correct? It's about how do you bake this. Microsoft has this in GitHub. They've launched something called Copilot, which allows you it auto-completes your code. These are things that help you do better productive. That means you can write more code or you can generate more business value. So one has to start to look at, I think, media. People always will hype it around and then they'll make a huge hoopla around this. Oh, ChatGPT is doing someone's homework. It's trying to do half of the journalist's job. Oh, it's fine. It's what people are not realizing is that you have technologies coming in which will they're assistive technologies. ChatGPT is a brilliant example of an assistive technology. Correct? It's basically an interaction assistant. So the question is that how do you use it effectively and how do you bake it into this thing? And people are going to, keep seeing newer technologies coming in as and when it's going to evolve. Correct. So yeah, that's the way I really look at it.
No, 100%. And I'm curious with all these big tech trends at the moment, so many changes in the industry. What's your big focus going to be at HCL this year? I appreciate there's probably not too much you can share, but is there anything you can share about what your focus will be this year?
Yeah, I think if we go back to we've been more open in terms of what are the strategic priorities and where we're investing on. As HCL Tech, we want to continue to be in the pivot of how do we help our customers adopt digital technologies and deliver value across foundation, business, and engineering. So it's about how do you make your IT more efficient? How do you make use of digital technologies to deliver better business technology value? And then how do you use technology to deliver better operational value to your business? So we use this term called IT, BT, and OT. So hence our digital foundation, digital business, digital engineering. It's about really enabling this whole conundrum because technology is not going to be owned by one function. Technology is the business, which is where we see the future of the digital plus, which is where technology or the tech decade. Hence, if you see our ETO Tech Trends report, which we published this year, we always keep tracking about we have the top 10 tech which you're focused on and 6 big things you're seeing across to the end of the decade and what are the big things which will be market shifters. But the core is about how do you take technology and help customers adopt it and help them derive better value. And that's the core value proposition of HCL Tech. HCL Software is a completely different animal. We've got 20,000 plus customers, correct? So how we are baking technology into our products which can deliver better value to the customer, that's a completely different dialogue. Maybe we should have a separate conversation and more than happy to have a separate dialogue where we can talk about how HCL Software is fueling the digital plus economy. But here at the core is what we're really seeing that how HCL Tech is supercharging progress. That's been our core theme of how we help our customers, our partners, these communities and the planets. How do we help supercharge progress? And that's been the core focus. So tech is going to be the center and how do you help adopt and derive better value?
Love that. And as someone that's just come back from Davos, you've walked along the promenade there, you've probably got access to anyone and everyone. But if there was one person in the world that you'd love to have a private breakfast or lunch with, who would that be and why? And we'll send something out there and let's see if we can make something happen together. But who would you like to sit down with and why?
I was really impressed with the former New Zealand PM, Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah.
Correct? I think there'll always be people. If you're a politician, everyone will have a different view of what you did. And I think she brought a very humane aspect to being a leader, correct? I think the way she speaks, the way she carries herself, the way she connects with a global audience in terms of she is who she is, and she's very honest, straight. And I think she would be a very interesting personality to go and sit and have a chat with. Other than that, I have a lot of, because I'm a big cricket fan. So there are obviously a bunch of cricketers and ex-cricketers whom I would always be looking forward to. But I think in the current Davos context, I think she would be one person who I would really get inspired about what she's been doing differently.
Well, hopefully we'll put that out in the universe. We'll see if we can manifest something together. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just want to find out more information about the work that you're doing, some of the big topics we've discussed today, what's the best starting place?
Yeah, I think you should go to HCLtech.com.
Yeah.
And you could see, and obviously, please take a look at our ETO 2023 Tech Trends report, which has some very interesting perspectives on what's happening out there, and basically of collective insights which we've got from our customers.
Well, it's a huge pleasure to have you back on the podcast today and exploring the huge revolution that's set to unfold over the next decade in the tech industry, especially around things like the cloud, quantum computing, and so much we covered today. But more than anything, it's just great to reconnect with you and have a good conversation again. So thanks for rejoining me today.
Thanks to you.
Well, a big thank you to KK for coming on the podcast today, talking about the tech industry, which has been one of the planet's biggest producers of carbon, and how it's focusing on developing new approaches for trapping and removing carbon dioxide from the air, and also some of those big trends that he's seeing there, from cloud infrastructure, quantum computing, sustainability, and so much more. But I'm curious, what big trends are you seeing? That's what I want to hear about, because I know you're listening in 165 different countries. That means we have perspectives and insights from 165 different countries out there. And I don't want this show to be just about me and the guest. I want it to be about you. So please, whatever we've talked about today, if you agree, if you disagree, whatever it is, let me know. Also, send in any questions. And if you'd like to join me on the podcast, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @Neil C. Hughes. Let's keep this conversation going. I've already got a great guest lined up tomorrow, so just a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.